Hi, Matthew.
Hi guys.
Hey, so
Hey,
Miss Stoner, who runs our account, is very shy and she doesn't really like to talk in Twitter Spaces. So she's just gonna creep in the background while we geek out.
How how um how exotic of her. By the way, I am en route down to Orange County to take my father-in-law out for his birthday. So I will be my wife is driving. I am completely safe, but at any given time,
Okay, good.
if I scream in road rage, you'll understand.
I do understand actually all too well.
Yeah, it's terrible. How are you? Are you in
Um,
LA?
yeah, I am. And now we got my co-creators up here as well, Chris and Ash, who are also in LA.
Hey, what's up, guys? And Bill's up here too.
hey,
Good
Matthew.
morning. Yeah. Good morning,
Hi,
everybody.
Bill.
Look at that.
How are you?
Look, it's the very un-Hollywood of us to start exactly on time.
I know. Wait, should
Right?
we all leave and come back a little late?
We should and walk in with coffees.
From
Traffic was a nightmare,
Yeah.
sips venti latte.
Well, I have to say I've been very giddy about this all day. I woke up in a very good mood. Ooh, oh my God. Sorry, almost got hit by a car. I'm not driving and I'm terrible in the front seat. But yeah, so I forgot what I was saying because we almost experienced death firsthand.
You said you were giddy this
I'm
morning.
giddy for the space. I was really excited. I found like a whole joy in spaces that I never expected. We started doing them a little more, and I've really gotten into these conversations. I don't know why. It's scratching my podcast itch.
Yeah, I could totally see that. We've jumped in a few. In fact, we have Snacks who's in here, but he created a unofficial Stoner Cats podcast, and now it is an officially unofficial podcast. So we've been jumping in on those spaces, and it's just a blast. Like it's just people hanging out. There's no agenda. There's no ego, and it's just chill. It's a good vibe.
It's a good vibe, and I feel like it represents. I sort of feel like it encapsulates the community. I don't know what you guys' experience with NFTs are before this, and I'd love to hear about it. But I am shocked constantly at the openness of this community, the ability for people just to say yes and like to jump in, to help, to like every time we turn around, there's other people sort of helping lift our journey, and it's been really remarkable, actually.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'll toss that over to Ash or Chris if you guys want to speak on that on your experience and how you felt the difference in the NFT community.
Yeah, it all feels really new and exciting in that it's weird because it's sort of it's not like the internet is new, it's not like Twitter is new, but the use of it is different and the communication, the community is different, and it's kind of like everyone has this. I keep saying it reminds me a little. It actually does remind me a little bit of early days of the internet. When you're in like forums and stuff like that, and you're like, I'm communicating by text immediately with someone on the other side of the world, or who knows, or it's like there's this excitement to this collaboration and communication that sort of feels unique and different, and we just talk about whatever. It's all usually based around crypto and NFTs, but it drifts into all sorts of obscure shit historically with us. Part of that's on me.
But I think that's what it is, right? Is people can.
Did you just say pardon that zombie?
I said, well, I mean, I think we probably have said pardon that zombie or some other obscure thing. I said part of that is on me.
Oh, okay.
But we ended up talking about, we started talking about NFTs in the show and everything. We got into this obscure concept about UFOs and the likeliness of of otherworldly intelligence, completely unrelated to what we were talking about. But it went for a good hour as part of the podcast that we had, not related to anything Area 51 before that. So that's the kind of fun nature, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I listen. I was saying to Bill the other day, I spent an hour and a half listening to a collection of like probably 300 people talking about influencers, which is not something I generally care about, but I just found it incredibly interesting. You guys, could you just start with, could you just give us like an overview and everyone an overview of Stoner Cats and how you guys got to where you're at and what you're and what you're doing, because I think it's awesome, and I guarantee you there's a bunch of people from our Discord that don't know about it yet.
Oh yeah, who wants to take this one?
Yeah, Ash. That feels like an Ash question for sure.
Okay.
Ash Brandon.
We've been. Hey, Matthew, and Bill.
Hi.
Thanks
Hi,
for
Ash.
having us. So, yeah, the three of us have been working together well over a decade, and Chris kind of conceived of this notion back when there was no streaming other than like YouTube, and we were thinking of like, oh, Stoner Cats is a webisode type show, and but we kept the dream alive, and then we got back together about 3 years ago, started seriously considering as a long form series. Connected with Mila and her gang. They really got it. They loved it. But the marijuana content scared people off. That's not what it's really about, but you know, you can understand. So it was Mila and Ashton who kind of said, what about NFTs? And at the same time, I had a little free time and decided I'm an animator and director by trade. But I hadn't hand-drawn animation since 1992. And I just said, I'm crazy. I'll just make the pilot on my Mac. And Mila, meantime, called up some friends like Jane Fonda and Chris Rock and Seth MacFarlane, and we got an amazing cast. So we put this thing together really homegrown. Sarah and Chris are editors as well as writers. And we just had the collective skill set that we needed to put a show together pretty much on our own. But the best part of the community, going back to that topic for a minute, is just how awesome it is to connect directly with our viewers. You can't do that in movies and TV, not in the same way at all. And it's been not only incredible just to see the community build around it, but to have them influence where the show is going. And I'll shut up.
Oh, no, don't shut up. That was so good. That was like sex talk. I totally agree with you. I think the ability to like directly build something for the people that love what you make is huge. We've never seen it before. I mean, the idea of Hollywood has lived for so long, has lived on top of this hill, and it's protected by, you know, by people that have MBAs from Harvard. And the ability to break that down and create directly for the people that are consuming your shit, like that's changes the world. I really feel like, look, before I got into crypto last year about this time and dug deep. I was like, I wanted to find out more. I invested on behalf of our family, and the more I sort of got into it, the more I started to believe in it. But as of December 21st, just to give you guys a quick update, just sort of explaining where we came from. On December 21st, 2021, Bill Wordy, my partner, came to me and said, "What do you think about NFTs?" And I was like, "I just don't get them. I don't get them at all." And he was like, "Well, there's this whole thing about, yes, there's the expensive collector items, but there's also the utility that goes underneath. And that utility is what we think is the future of Web3. I mean, the idea that you can directly interact with the things that you care about, finance and help elevate the things you care about, I think is a game changer." But
it really is.
Yeah, Bill, do you want to just talk real quick about?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, like, to Ash's point, like, I mean, you mentioned how because of the marijuana content's not a major factor, but it is an issue with a lot of places that you took the project. Like, that's exactly, what kind of prompted us to launch this, is because there's so many times where people have really good scripts, really good projects, and they just can't get them made because, these marketing departments and the suits are telling you, oh, well, that won't sell in this area, and that won't, people don't want to watch this or that. And all of a sudden the creators now have their hands tied because it's like you have to fit within this box of what they say the audience wants. But what is great about NFTs is now we can go directly to the audience and say, do you want this thing? How can we make this better? Like, what interests you? And it's putting the power back into their hands versus having someone on their behalf tell them, no, they want the same thing churned out over and over again. We're just going to modify it a little bit differently. And yeah, so that's why I just love hearing your story, where it's just a very similar kind of artist forward kind of reason for getting into NFTs and entertainment. I love it.
The cool thing about it is just proving that it's a plausible concept to do this already is kind of shaking things up, because it's made everyone on the studio level kind of pay attention. Nothing gets a studio's attention more than any form of money or community building. And yeah, it's like, if nothing else, the hope is that like independent projects on the outside of the system that are a little bit crazier, it would be great if that would inspire a little bit more risk taking on the studio level, because historically, yeah, like everything has to be, at this point in my experience, no one wants to take a risk on anything. So it's just a repackaged version of something that already exists. If they haven't already seen it, they're not going to greenlight a new thing unless it reflects something that's already been done or that's been seen for the comfort factor. So doing weird different things up and about out and seeing the popularity of those, ideally, hopefully it would be great to wash off the stale biscuits of what's coming out for a lot of content that's being churned out in the traditional avenues.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a movie called SLC Punk a gazillion years ago. And the reality is that I think that if you build content for people that nobody else cares about, right, that nobody's paying attention to, that nobody sort of sees a dollar, sees a financial win in. Like, so punk rock kids, nobody's ever seen nobody ever looks at the punk rock community and goes, oh, we can make a lot of money there. So they just never make content for them. But if you make content for kids or people that are disenfranchised on the outside looking in, it's amazing how people will rally to that project to support it, because you're building things for them. And I just think it's, I don't know, it's artists doing what inspires them for the community that they care about and that they're drawn to. And I just think it's a whole new revolution of creative content.
Oh man, there's some sex talk.
Not to be dramatic, but I do. But beautiful. I think so, right? Yeah,
it is, absolutely.
I think there's also a big part of it of people want to be seen in the content they watch. They want to connect, and if they're just being shoved stuff that they have no say in and no vote in, they're just like, I don't want this. And then I guess there's also the other side of it too, right? Where there's the studio side that's gone through a pandemic. No one went to the theaters, and they are shit scared of putting out original content and taking the risk, like Chris said. So they're just like, reboots, sequels, let's build off a fan base. And I think the beauty of NFTs is you can find the fan base and people will actively show up and participate. And you're not hinging on that bottom dollar per se. It's purely like the love of film and television, which is amazing.
The other cool thing.
Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say, like, the that sort of world of the pressure you get from studios of like the 4-quadrant concept, please everyone, which essentially pleases almost no one a lot of the time. Now we get to kind of find these little niches and, at a higher percentage, please, specific audience, a little bit tailor-made to specific groups of people, and people can find the community that best suits the kind of stuff that they like and get something that really represents that creatively is the dream.
Yeah. Well, look, that's our whole model is building community, building utility around making films, right? Yes, we're making films. So we mint all of our community wallet goes into making movies. And then not all of it, but a great majority of it. And then we're creating this night school experience where people from all over the world can engage and become part of our night school, which teaches you the ins and outs of our industry from wherever you are. Like, we'll have AMAs, we'll sit and discuss, we'll put writers with writers' rooms, we'll put directors with directors, and sort of mentor peer-to-peer sort of training to allow people to access this industry, to access chasing their dreams. Like, step one, right? We're not saying that everyone's going to go out and become the next great filmmaker, but if you have that passion and you have that desire, well, then we want to be a place where you connect with other creatives, because we all know, right? I think that one of the hardest things for me as an actor is the journey, like a lifetime journey. And the thing that I keep always come back to is that you need fellowship, you need other people like you to help you continue on that journey. And so that's our whole thing. Like, our whole thing is utility. Can you provide things for people that are in desperate need of the thing that you're making? I don't know.
I love that. And there,
It's
I
more
don't
sex
know
talk.
anybody
I
else
just
doing
keep
it.
talking
It is,
so that you
it
get
is,
turned
but,
on.
well, it's so true. I just, I think back to even college and how much more I learned from like my colleagues and even in work, like, and just how inspiring it was to be around other filmmakers who were excited and opened your eyes to other ways of thinking about film and storytelling. And that's like my favorite kind of community. And that's awesome that you're building something custom made for aspiring filmmakers and experienced filmmakers and putting them together.
I think that's interesting too, because our cast, we had them on board and us included didn't really know a lot about NFTs, and they did it because of the love of the project. I mean, Jane was on really, really early before, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but before it was ever an NFT, because she kind of understood it. And the light log line is like, it sounds silly, like a stoner comedy in the title, but ultimately it's about Miss Stoner and her 5 rescued house cats. And she gets a dose of a mysterious medical marijuana and she spills it into the fire and hotboxes her cats and they become sentient. So now they have to balance their ego with this idea of trying to save the family and protect their owner, who is wrestling with Alzheimer's, which is a story of my mom. And so it's a chance to honor her legacy and tell a real heartfelt story about family and togetherness, and not necessarily the family you were born with or the one you choose. And so it's a really heartfelt story with, a bit of comedy sparse between. We always joke, like, we can't make someone cry and then do a fart joke in the next 3 seconds. Like, it's about balance. But yeah,
I mean, you can
if you do it right.
Yes.
You can. And I'm not saying we have or haven't. If you've seen the episode, you know that we have. But but yeah, so like it's this opportunity to tell a story that's creatively ours, right? Like the studios or people who are trying to get involved and just have a say don't muddy our idea and the original content and just shove stuff down what people think they want. We're able to give truth to our vision, which sounds like super on a soapbox about it, but it's true. And I think most people feel that way about their art, is they want their art to live in its purest form. And I think this gives it that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's heaven, right? I mean, you're living and dying on what you're creating, and it's not being, I don't know, marginalized, right? You're not trying to hit. We always talk about all 4 quadrants, right? You're not trying to be everything for everyone. And it's super powerful. So it sounds blissful. Like, where are you guys? I mean, do you have any struggles? Like, what's your struggle? Like, because it sounds awesome, but there's got to be something that we're not seeing.
Probably the biggest struggle is delivering episodes as quickly as we can, because they take a while. I don't animate anymore, but we had to hire an animation studio in the Bay Area, GhostBot, and they're doing great work, but animation takes a long time. That's probably the biggest struggle. Like, creatively, we get along great. Mila and Lisa and everybody at Orchard Farms is super collaborative, but also their notes are constructive. And so, yeah, and there's no politics. It's the best part of it. I think it's just really the production schedule. That's probably the hardest part.
Well, it's like 3 of us.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
yeah. No. I was just gonna ask another question. Please continue. I'm curious.
No, I was just going to elaborate on what Ash was saying. It's like whatever everyone sort of perceives of what we're doing, it's kind of like 3 people that have, varying skill sets, and we're all expansive in what we do, but we basically had to create a startup. We had to, develop the infrastructure to sort of be able to deliver the NFTs to everyone, which is a lot of work. And all of the art comes directly hand-drawn from Ash, who's the creative filter of all of this stuff. It's his vision, his world. They're all kind of supporting, but we've become, a startup company and a mini animation studio to make this happen while delivering to the audience, while doing creative. And it's kind of like in a studio system, you have different teams spread along, and you can have different people working on different episodes at the same time. You've got, the structure of, producers and assistants and everything. Like, we have to do all those jobs ourselves. And so it's like we have to be a studio. We don't have studio resources. We're doing all the jobs ourselves. We're still trying to be creative, and we don't want to turn into a studio in that we don't want to be a factory, like, fall into the tropes of what everyone else has done that we're trying to be different from. So I think in my mind, that's kind of, our biggest hurdle is how do we deliver what we want to do, maintain what we're doing, keep it fun, keep it fresh, do it different, do it better. But just kind of like, it's such a skeleton crew right now because we're so offline and indie about it. But that's the excitement.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna have that same thing. We're doing 3 movies with our initial mint, so like the idea of going into production on 3 films, we're not doing it at the same time, obviously, but is going to be tough. I mean, we're also going to have to figure out, like, our whole thing is, and Bill, I keep talking. You should talk more. You're way smarter than me and way more charismatic. Jump in here, God, Bill.
I am
Please.
not more charismatic, but I will jump in. Yeah, so for those that don't know, like, what the Midnite Movie Club is, we're basically starting like a decentralized movie studio. So basically what you guys are doing with animation, we're doing with movies. And the way we're sort of structured is we have one film that's already set up that's going to be ready to go after Mint just to keep the momentum going. But we want to have as much community involvement as possible. So the future films that we'll do will all be entirely voted on by the community. So we will curate like 3 to 5 filmmakers, bring them up. They'll put together a pitch video. They'll show some pages from their script, have a lookbook, get to see some of their previous work. And then after the pitching round is done, the community DAO will vote for which of those projects goes into production, and we will finance that from the community wallet. So the community is actually they're greenlighting the movies essentially. And then from there, throughout the whole process, they're going to be involved. We're going to be having, behind the scenes footage from the films, casting, pre-production, post-production, all of that stuff. You'll be kind of following along of the way. And then the DAO votes will also come into play again. So there'll be various creative decisions throughout the process that the filmmakers will put up to the community. So the filmmaker might narrow down, hey, there's a role we're casting. We have 3 people that I've narrowed it down to. Which person would you guys like to see in this film? And then the community we can vote and we can make an offer to that person. Now, there's no guarantee that they'll say yes, because you know how Hollywood is. You make an offer, but that doesn't mean anything unless they connect to the material. But the audience is participating and helping us make decisions. So if there's wardrobe choices, we can put those up for a vote. If there's different variations of a prop or music cues, all kinds of different things. And we want to get people involved in the actual process. So when we're filming in various states, because we'll go where there's tax incentives and stuff, because we're doing indie filmmaking, and if you live near there and you're interested in becoming an art department or camera, like we'll try to get you on as like an intern, a PA, an assistant to a director, whatever we can to kind of help you get experience on set, build up your resume. And for those that aren't actually local, like say like more international people, like if you're a graphic designer, if you're an editor, a musician, we want you to be able to also contribute. So there's opportunities for any sort of like set decoration stuff, like whether it's posters or T-shirts or whatever, all that stuff usually has to be cleared. But what we're going to allow our audience to do is they can drop some designs, submit stuff. We'll have everyone vote, and those things will wind up in the movie as whether it's props, set dressing, music cue. If you're an artist, you can put some songs up. And then we want to also take like footage from the film, put that out there for all our editors so they can cut fan trailers. So now you're building up your reel, but you're also getting exposure because people are seeing your work. We just have as much utility as we can give people to help them get their film career started. Is what we really want to deliver. We're going to be having like Matt said, the night school stuff. Do you want to chime in, Matt? I hear you.
No. I was just about to say, like, all of that is right now we have a team of 2. Like, there's 2 of us. We have incredible mods. We have incredible community leaders. But right now, like, the idea of like expanding into a mini studio is like daunting, right? And it's not like we have a high mint price and. So it's gonna be a super. It's like almost like having a baby. Like everyone says it's gonna be hard, and then you're like, yeah, whatever. And then you have 3 kids. You're like, oh my god, I wish I would have known how hard. I would have only had 2. Because I do think that in this whole process, it's been super eye opening in terms of like we're on the grind. Like we're trying to make shit happen that's exciting and different, and it's awesome. It's exciting. We feel like we're on the front edge of something that's huge. But it's hard. It's a lot of hard work. And I'm sure that's what you guys were saying, the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of, we've just been figuring it out as we've been going along. And we're all smart and we've all had a lot of experience. It's amazing how much experience you have you don't realize equates to anything until you suddenly, have the ability to figure it out. It's just you wish you had more of all of us. I wish we could clone each of us and, do more at the same time. And the hard part as well is just educating, the audience. Everyone's excited. They want to see what you're doing. They want to get what you're, what you're selling, what you're producing as fast as possible. But it takes time, and that'll be the same thing. There's the prep time, the shoot time, the post time, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like no one realizes movies are made for 2 to 4 years before they show up on the screen, and that's the process they're participating in. And just knowing that it's going to take that time and kind of like go with it will be a challenge for an audience. NFT audience is like, I want it now. Everything's instant. Everything's fast.
Yeah.
Like on the minute. It's like, well,
sure,
that can't be for everything all the time.
I mean, when I do, I'm the voice of Shaggy, and I've been the voice of Shaggy now for like 14 years. But when you do a cartoon, it takes a year for it to hit, and and then you have to do it again. It's brutal. The fact that you guys are turning it out so fast is huge. Do you feel the pressure to find audience? Like, because now that there's no sort of traditional studio, like, is there pressure to keep growing audience, or pressure to mint another NFT? Like, I'm just curious, like, is there anything sort of like stressing you out on that sort of traditional side?
Time between episodes is the big one. What do you think, Ash?
I don't think we think about it a lot. I mean, we have a really passionate core audience, and we really love when we have creator calls with them. But we really honestly are focused on just making the best content we can. And there are other people who are trying to help, expose the show more to a larger community, and that's good for everybody. But that's really not our focus right now.
Yeah, it's the whole if you build it, they will come, right? Like it's like you make a good product, people will find you, versus worrying about trying to find them while you're also trying to, deliver the product. Like, just keep your head down, do the work, and they'll show up.
Yeah, that's the hope. And
it's a little bit,
think about your projects. Oh, what's that, Chris?
Yeah, I was just saying, it's like, ideally it's a little bit of word of mouth. When people hear something's worth paying attention to, then you hope that they get into it and say, hey, this is cool, tell someone else, and, hope it spreads organically. But it's being so niche, is a bit of a difficulty in that respect. Sorry, Ash, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, it's okay. This generation of filmmakers is very lucky that you can do so much with so little. I mean, iPhones and the film software and Avid and Final Cut and even iMovie, you can do great stuff with this. And if you, maybe this is a segue to talking about film and TV. But I just happened to watch Duel, Spielberg's made-for-TV movie from like 1971, was it? And
why did you watch that? How the hell did that come up?
I know, man. I just ran across it, and like the trailer, and it reminded me how little there is to that movie. It's like two guys, a truck, and a car, and
he executes it so well. That's a crazy
so
thing.
Well,
those resources.
Right, but like the best thing I learned in college was from my design teacher. Like, work with your limitations, embrace your limitations, and when you look at Duel and like the budgetary constraints Spielberg probably had, it didn't hold him back from making one of his best films. I think Stephen King calls it Spielberg's best film. That's how I came across it. I found an article.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so
there's freedom within form. I mean, there's freedom within form, right? If it's exactly what you just said, that you can thrive when you know what your limitations are.
Yeah, exactly. Is that something you keep in mind when you're curating your projects?
Well, look, I think. Yeah, go ahead. No, you go, Bill.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, when you're an indie filmmaker, I feel like that's like one of the focus, the kind of things you think about. And growing up, like, Robert Rodriguez was always like a big inspiration because, the guy was not in Hollywood. He was just kind of making movies. Rebel Without a Crew is an amazing book. It's really a journal. It's like him journaling, getting his career started. And with El Mariachi, like, that's literally how he sat down and wrote that movie. He's like, okay, what do I have? I got this one. We got a friend who has a suit. we have a guitar case, we have like a prop gun, and we have a giant turtle. And that's literally the poster for that movie. And then he's like, let's just write like the movie based around all the things we have access to. And then he came up with that story of this like traveling around. I mean, it's so good when you have limitations. I feel like when people have that blank check of like a giant studio film, like you don't solve problems creatively, you solve them with money. And then that kind of makes the thing kind of flatter because you're not forced to think outside the box. You're just like, okay, well, this is what my first thought was, we just need more money to do it, versus going, okay, well, I don't have money for it. What can we do instead? Like, how can we creatively get over this hurdle?
Yeah, and then you end up doing things with special effects. Like I always go back to Indiana Jones, and the fourth one, I think it was, when he blew. I don't know if anyone remembers the scene, but they're in the middle of the desert, and he gets in a lead-lined refrigerator, and he gets blown up in a nuclear test and lands and lives. And I was like, just because you have the money to do it doesn't mean you should. Just mean you should. And look, you start writing and start creating based on a set piece instead of telling stories, and the why of it. Like, that's a big piece of it for us, is like, why this NFT? Why are you building this? How is this different? Is super powerful. And yeah, I think that creativity is born out of limitations because you're forced to be creative. And I don't know. I think it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, we absolutely we have that for sure. I mean, I'll say nuke the fridge is the new jump the shark for sure. But for us, like personally, is we have, a limited team ourselves and our animation studio, and we have to figure out how to tell a story, which we kind of do this hybrid feature TV storytelling because we all come from feature background. So for us, we're trying to like, how do we cram a feature storyline into a 5 to 7 minute episode? And that's been a huge challenge for us. And that's where you're talking about the limitations of like, this is what we have, and we have to be really succinct in our storytelling, which is a really fun challenge, I think. And I think listening to the community feedback along the way shapes that and helps us get there faster.
I hate it when it goes silent. When things go silent, I'm like, oh my God, say something, dummy. Listen, how does it working with the actors on those? I mean, are they super supportive of the whole thing? Like, can you just talk a little about what that whole process has been like?
Yeah, they've really warmed to it. At first they were like, what are you doing? Like, I don't blame any of our actors for wondering what they were getting into initially. But, especially when they're thrown during COVID, where initially we were shipping like microphones to people's houses, and then they'd record in their living rooms, and we got horrible audio. And at the same time, you're talking to Chris Rock going, okay, like, I can't really explain what we're doing, but here's your character and here's what's going on in the scene. And so they warmed up to it, though, after they got to see what we were doing, and they got a little more meat on the bones with their characters and what they're doing as they evolve in each episode. Not only they got more inspired by what they're doing, we've gotten better audio recording. Now Chris goes to a New York recording studio. Ashton and Mila have a booth in their house. You probably do too. I mean,
my booth is in my closet. I'll send you pictures. It's hot, cool. And I almost pass out every time. But yeah, I mean, during pandemic, you're doing Shaggy in a closet, and you're like suffocating out. It's horrible.
Call it a sauna.
Suffering for your art. Yeah,
it's a drama.
It's also it was difficult for us a little bit with the project in just the way that it happened so fast, and Mila kind of convinced everyone to do it. So it was really on her relationships with them. So we've kind of had to develop our relationships with the actors as we went along. But historically, you get to meet up before a project and you get to know each other. You do table reads, you talk about the character, all those things. Even with animation, but we kind of had to skip all that and just go straight to like, all right, here's a ridiculous scenario where you're a cat who just turned sentient, you run around, do some shit, and this is what it is. And they're like, what? Okay. And then, we kind of figure it out as we go along. So the more we've been doing it and the more they've gotten used to what we're doing and how we're doing it, the more we kind of find rhythm with it. But ours is a bit of a specific situation in that it just all came together so quickly that we didn't really have the prep or rehearsal time, either with how we're doing it or what we're doing, to really sort of have that traditional relationship that you would do with the actors, with the exception of Mila and Ashton, who we have more access to and we can talk about offline, a little bit more. But we also have to work, within the schedules of working actors, and a lot of that gets negotiated in the Hollywood world with agents and within studios. Buddy deals like, all right, I'll lend you my actor in the middle of the shoot to do this and that. Like, we don't have any of those connections, so we're really relying on them to kind of volunteer their spare time sometimes to do this, and we have to work around their schedule. So we have to be even more advanced in what we're doing to make sure that we can reschedule 5 times in a week, to get Seth on a Friday afternoon between, his doing Family Guy and his other obligations and things like that. So that's been one of the harder parts of scheduling when animation is it's like a visual effects film, everything has to happen at a certain time for it all to come together and work. And the X factor can be, getting the actors together, for the right amount of time to get the quality recording. And you get one shot. So if we fuck up, then it's toast.
Yeah. Are you guys doing other stuff? I mean, are you guys starting to build outside of this? I mean, are you building on the success? Like, are you doing movies? Are you continuing to write other things? Like, or are you just loaded into this full time?
I mean, it's kind of both. Right now we're doing this. We promised 6 episodes, and we're in the middle of episode 3 now. So obviously we've got some groundwork to finish the next 3. But part of the concept that we're trying to do, much like what you're doing, is create a space where there's ongoing content. So we really are working in the background to make sure that there are other ideas, and we're doing the same thing as well, in that we're letting the community vote on what they want. So Mila and Orchard Farm are coming up with some options of things that they think are cool. We're working on, there's about 3 projects that we have as potentials for something to do next that I think are really awesome, like stuff that it's exactly the niche that we're in. It's the shit that should be getting made that I think is cool personally, that I wish someone would make that can't be made for some logistic reason, or some studio didn't get it, or whatever it is. It's kind of one of those things where I think when you see it, you'll be like, that's amazing. But the path to get there is not one that works in the traditional setup. So we're gravitating towards preparing future content, and we have to take that into account as well, presenting it to the DAO, making sure that everyone's on board with it, rather than saying, all right, guys, we're going to do what the studio did and tell you what you want, because that sucks. That means we're perpetuating the thing that we're trying to get around. But it is hard to focus on something new when this is so kind of all encompassing, and, to make sure you do the thing you said you're going to do before thinking, too far into the future.
Absolutely. I actually wonder, could you touch upon, like, because you guys have a lot of celebrities involved with your project. Have you guys had or have they personally had a lot of backlash for getting into NFTs? Because that was something like a hurdle that we had at the very beginning was, and Matt can talk about this more, but just curious about if there's been any, there just seems to be a lot of negativity when a celebrity gets involved in NFTs publicly.
Yeah, we had a lot of backlash in the beginning because it felt like a celebrity cash grab. And what it really is, in the traditional Hollywood sense, the actors are the one who are the face. Like, they're the one in the press junkets. It's not the editors or the writers who are going around promoting the film. So by that very nature, the celebrities are the face of the project. And that looks like, in the NFT community, like a cash grab. And we had to be like, no. Like, here are the people behind the scenes working on it. And it's a female-led project majority wise. I mean, my co-creators are male, but we have Orchard Farm, who's Cami, Lisa, Mila, and we have Morgan Beller, who's a co-creator of Libra from Facebook, and Maria Bajwa, who's just an NFT goddess. So we have this really incredible team that I think got sideswiped a little bit from the face of the celebrity. So I think there's a lot of education that can go into it as far as what the projects really are and whether they're authentic, as opposed to making it look like, oh, it's just some big studio or some big company coming into the NFT space and feeling inauthentic. So I think it's really important to try to bridge that gap, and kind of like what you guys are doing of all the processes that go into making a film, I think will maybe educate people who don't understand how that works from a fundamental standpoint.
Yeah, it was, just our experience coming out was, the tweet, good morning tweet, where here we go, let's have, LFG was just brutal. I mean, it was just sort of, I just got retweeted to death in terms of, I'm destroying the earth, it's a Ponzi scheme, all I'm trying to do is create exclusivity, and, it was humbling. So we actually had a completely we had to change our plan of attack, right? Our whole thing was like, hey, Matthew Lillard, that guy from that thing, you should check out. He's going to go make independent horror films. Isn't that sound rad? We don't even tweet about it. I mean, everything, today I didn't tweet about it. We've just been completely circumventing Twitter as a whole. I mean, obviously Midnite Movie Club is still tweeting, but personally, it's just been really hard and humbling, and it's just made us sort of rethink how to build organically and build with community, and just sort of, our big ask in moments like these, or if you're in this space and you hear us talking about what we're making, go out and tell 10 people. If we turn you on, tell 20 people, because the reality is that without that kind of community outreach, without that kind of support, it's going to be hard to make it. So, we're building organically, and it's been harder than I thought it would be. That's for sure.
Oh man, but you believe in what you're doing, and you have the patience to let the truth will come out. Like you said, if you have the community, they know your intentions are good, and it just takes a while. With any kind of major change, sea change, it's like, I don't know, when everybody finds out the Earth is really flat, it's gonna be a big deal.
Oh my God! You heard it here first, people. The world is flat, and birds are not real. Birds are not real.
Neither is Australia. Australia's a made-up place. I get paid monthly.
He's just in front of a green screen.
Yeah,
it's not real.
So funny. Yeah, listen. I mean, look. At the end of the day, I think it's better. Like, we're building a community, and our community is awesome. Like, our Discord's great. We're super stoked. I do think that that's one of those things that I found very surprising, is that I find myself making real virtual relationships with people, and I like getting on Discord. I like checking in. I like seeing how people are doing. I like the banter, talking about movies in our Discord, and that's the thing I thought I was really surprised by. I didn't expect that. I expected this to be transactional. Like, we're gonna build, we're gonna make movies, but there's been this community building that I have found myself really taken by, and that I love.
Yeah, there's all this cool stuff. There's the Alamo Drafthouse vibe of people coming together to watch old movies and talk about it, and the IRL of it all, and Tarantino buying New Beverly. And I've been to a few events there where you're just going to, see Demolition Man or something. There's all these fans of Demolition Man showing up. A buddy of mine bought a ticket, and it was such a weird experience of some obscure thing that you all have this shared excitement about. And I think in my mind, the niche of it is what is most exciting, because there aren't that many places for people to like something specific. Everything's a bit more generalized, or, whatever is sort of presented in the sort of global world now. There's big fans of Marvel and all the Disney stuff, but it's getting together and talking about Evil Dead, or Evil Dead's pretty mainstream at this point, but you know what I mean? There's something exciting about just talking about simple things that, and it always evolves as a discussion, with either Discord or on the Twitter Spaces about what people want to see, what people get excited about, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does go back to fellowship, right? The idea of gathering around and sitting around and sharing the things that you're passionate about, and finding other people that are just as passionate as you. That's the sweet spot. We always say our Venn diagram is people that love movies, people that love NFTs, and people that love horror movies. Those three things, if we can get them all into our community, movie makers, and put people together to build towards, being in the creative process as a whole, Like that's the part that we think will, that's our longevity play. Like, our idea is like, can you provide something that somebody doesn't have in the middle of Iowa, and then you become invaluable in their lives, and you give them, a reason to keep going on the creative process. Bless you, bless you.
Yeah, you're right. That's never going to change. Like telling primal stories around the campfire is, in whatever form it takes, that's never going to go away.
Yeah,
How's the
and so
drive
like
going?
I was gonna say, and so like your point about like finding a niche community, man. You look at how gigantic Comic-Con has become over the years, and that is all about like these micro communities all converging into one space. Because there's all the smaller rooms where people. I mean, those things get very specific, and people are very much going to one sort of mecca to find their people. And you walk the floor and you see all the different cosplays and all the niches. It's like, yeah, so there is comfort in finding that space of like-minded people.
It really is.
So we're saying is we're starting the Web3 for Comic-Con is kind of what's happening here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Ow! Listen, I have a Dungeons and Dragons company, so I get it. Like the idea of building things for people who are on the outside looking in is, I don't know, it's as good as it gets. Do you guys take questions? Do you guys want to take questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say let's invite some people up. I know there's some people requesting. Let's see.
You guys, we are in Orange County. I'm getting off the freeway now. So we did not die in a fiery crash. Because in the back of my mind, I was like, Matthew Lillard died today in a fiery crash. And you all would have been a witness to that.
They heard it live.
Live on Spaces. And that would have been horrible. Because the headline would have read, Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher's project witnesses a man die.
Oh, God.
Buried in the lead. Buried in the lead.
So happy you're in Orange County.
Oh,
yeah. We have questions.
So
yeah, I've Oscar Turtles. I didn't just pick that on name. If did they come up? Did I lose them? Oh no! All right, let's see. Let me try somebody else. Dun, dun, dun. If you guys want to ask questions, please request, and we'll bring you up. All right, Flinch. If you're with us, if you get through, what you got? Flinch.
I like that. Flinch.
There we go.
I see him.
Hello.
Hi, Flinch.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Oh.
How are you guys doing today?
I'm going to let Flinch talk.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to come up and first of all say congratulations on the amazing project. Great rollout. Obviously, you guys were like the big splash in the space of film and TV. So, I guess my main question is just what really led to the creation of this concept for you of Stoner Cats for you guys?
That's one for Chris.
So we were working on, I don't know how much you know about our backgrounds, but Ash comes from Pixar, traditional Disney World, and co-directed Toy Story 2 and Surf's Up, and he's like a champion of the business in the real sense, and as successful as you can get. And we're all kind of looking for new projects and things that were exciting and inspiring, and we just kind of found the sameness to the development process where you ask the question as an audience, why does everything feel so muted, or why doesn't anything feel fresh or exciting or new? And it's in many ways the process, it just kind of makes everything have to be a certain way that ends up being a bit bland, and sometimes it's too many cooks and chefs and this and that. Anyway, Stoner Cats was kind of an FU to the whole concept of the sameness of animation. And it was the idea of like, what if you take something stupid, make more out of it, and this and that. And we just kind of had fun with it. And we just joked about it. We sent, cat gifts to each other, on cats on catnip, and just all the tropes. And the more we kind of laughed and joked about it, and we joked about the story, and it just kept evolving. And the reason we pursued it is because we never hit a wall. We just kept coming up with new dumb ideas. And we kind of, in a way, wanted to see where the bottom was. And we just kept going. And then we're like, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we should actually pursue it for realsies. And, we pitched it around. Mila and Lisa were the ones who were like, I don't know what the fuck you guys are or what this is, but if you want to do it with us, we'll do it. And we're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And that was it. It just started with, fuck it, let's just do it. And then it turned into, fuck it, let's just do it ourselves. And then we kind of, merged with the NFT space and found a whole bunch of people that were tired of things being the same way. And there was a kindred spirit in the NFT world with our approach to what we were trying to do with content. And it sort of felt natural to do it that way. And then we adapted the content to the space, rewrote the show, and we are still rewriting it. And it was all based on, once we all started talking, now that expanded from the three of us talking about things that the three of us like, to things that the community also likes and agrees with. And that just expanded the scope and the concept. And that's it. Then we're now re-inspired with this new group of people that we've connected with. And we've been off, in that regard. And I don't know if I entirely answered the question, but that's the how and why.
I actually have a follow-up question. So it sounds like, when you guys teamed up with Mila and them, like, I'm assuming you took the project around before you decided to turn it into NFTs. How long did you kind of do that grind before making the decision to switch to the NFT thing? Just to give people perspective of how long things take in Hollywood, where you have these meetings that go on forever and get dragged out. And I'm just curious how long it took you guys. Okay, yeah,
exactly. Almost 2 years. Yep.
Yeah, we started up. We were gonna pitch it as a grown-up show. We went to all of the obvious places, the major studios, this and that, and we didn't get. People were really excited about it. We had some great meetings. But when it shows up at the door of the gatekeepers, they're like, talking animal, weed, or they wanted to turn it into something that we didn't want to do with the show. So for various reasons, it just didn't make sense to sort of pursue it in that way. And then we were looking at a few other more independent but still mainstream on TV options, and just nothing felt right. And when this came up, somehow it just felt right to do it, even though it hadn't really been done before. It was a big random thing, and kind of the mystery of it, like, I don't even know what the fuck this is, but it's exciting. I don't know what it could turn into, but that was like, the fear or excitement about it was what drove us to do it. And it's just been, figuring out from there on. But the idea that there was an avenue that could be exciting and new and different was, awesome.
And now, really quick, just for perspective. So you spent 2 years trying to get it made, nothing happened. From when you announced the NFT project to when you minted and were greenlit and started making the project, what was that time period like?
Well, once we decided to do it, we had already finished the first episode. As soon as we decided to do it, we started making the episode, and we didn't know what the NFT concept was or what the launch or any of that stuff. We were like, we'll figure that out along the way. And so, for 4 months, Ash is just frantically animating, and we're developing it before we had a cast, before anything was happening. So the tracks of the train started getting laid down. We just had to make sure we kept up with the train that was speeding up along the way. Recorded the actors whenever we could get them. Chris Rock on whatever it was, Monday morning at 8:00 in his living room, like anything we could to just keep it going and hope we didn't, tie our shoelaces together and go for a run. And so, it was like this frantic sort of concept of like, oh, I hope this all comes together, because you can't really see the end result as you're doing it. And Ash was just like, I was finishing Space Jam, Sarah's on Spider-Verse, like, we got full-time day jobs while we're doing this, and we're doing this at nighttime on the weekends and all of our spare time. And so, there's, Ash just devoted his life 7 days a week, 12 hours a day to animate this whole thing, one person. And I'm talking about, like, if anyone knows anything about animation, this is something that teams of hundreds of people. On Space Jam, we had like 40 animators and then 2 companies to do cleanup and outlines and all of that stuff. One human made that whole thing. And we Sarah and I bounced around and did the sound and editing work, to make sure it all sort of came together. But it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, just again, for the people who are kind of new to the entertainment industry, hearing that it took 2 years to go pretty much nowhere, and then within 4 months you already had like a finished first episode because of NFTs, just shows you the incredible power of this space. So I just really want to put a spotlight on that real quick.
Yeah, Bill, I'm glad you did. I hadn't really looked back that way, so that perspective is, I think I need to take a drink now. That's pretty
Well,
amazing.
I also love the idea of being somebody in the creative world who was like, fuck it, and it just keep going. Like nobody ever stopped you, so you just kept going. Like that's my story as an actor. Like I was like, nobody ever said you can't do it. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep going until I have to grow up. And then, here I am 30 years later and you're still doing it. I just think that the creative space, you can't wait for permission. You just have to keep building and keep going. And and then great things happen. If you're chasing something that you love, great things happen.
Yeah,
Flinch,
if we didn't believe that, we would not have done it.
Yeah, 100%. Flinch, does that answer your question and then some?
Oh, yeah, hey, Flinch.
It definitely does. Thank you so much. And could I ask a follow-up real quick?
Sure.
So I was also wondering if you had any advice to filmmakers in the space trying to get their own NFT projects off the ground. What would be your main advice about building something?
I think Matthew just gave the best advice. Like, don't, people are going to shut doors on you. Just keep finding doors and opening them yourself. And one of the best lines I heard from a writer friend was, "The way to the universe is through your own heart." So, like, if you really believe in what you're doing and it inspires you, then it will inspire other people. You just got to believe and keep going. There's really no other way. Determination is so critical.
Awesome.
And I'll
Thank you so much.
also just say real quick, like, I mean, the best way to do it is just to start, just to do it. It's like when you go to write, the most intimidating thing is looking at that blank page. But once you just start filling it with words and knowing like you're going to figure it out as you go, it's really empowering. Because even with our project, like, I was going to do it after the movie that we're going to do as our first movie. I was like, okay, I'll do this film because we had a deal. It was a similar situation. We were spending 1.5 years trying to negotiate the contract to get the financing and all that stuff. And then eventually, I made the decision to walk away from it because they started taking away certain creative abilities from us and kind of cutting us off at the knees from delivering a good film. And that was a hard thing to do as indie filmmakers, just to walk away from guaranteed money. But at that point, it was like, you know what? Maybe that NFT project that I was thinking about doing for this, like, to start after this film was done, let's just do it now. And rather than sitting there thinking about it, which, tends to happen, then you see, oh man, that idea that I had for a script, someone made that. I was going to write that 1 year ago, but you never sat down and wrote it. Well, someone else did. So I just decided to start putting stuff down to paper. I started like working on the white papers, started like kind of throwing together a website. And then when I had stuff gathered, I reached out to Matthew and presented to him, and then found a like-minded individual. And that's just how it is. It's like, you got to start something, your enthusiasm, other people will see that, they'll want to get on board. And yeah, just the biggest hurdle is yourself and getting over the fact that you think you can't do it. And you're trying to think of the perfect time to start. Well, the perfect time is right now. Just start.
Yes, fear doesn't serve you at all in the creative space. There is no fear. Like, you just have to charge. And the other thing I'll say, just as I'm now walking around in the world talking out loud, you have to ask what you're offering other people, right? If you're building an NFT right now, the idea of like what you're giving other people, not just what they're giving you, I think is super important. Like, how are you providing something in their lives?
Yeah, and I've mentioned this before, but go check out a TED Talk called "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek. Like, that'll really help you pinpoint why you're doing what you're doing versus just doing like the thing for the sake of doing it. So check that out for sure.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Let's go to thank you, Flinch. Let's go to Andrea.
Hi, thanks for having me. And
Thanks for being here.
congratulations. Thank you. And congratulations to both of the success of your projects, respectfully. I love how you mentioned Collective as a Group, No Fear, Just Charge, and the way through the universe is through your heart, keep opening doors and fighting. And I think all of us who are creatives, who are writing stories and going on this journey, it's like, I'm kind of having this of, okay, I wrote the story, now I need to put my sales hat on, now my business hat's on, right? So I think as creators, it's having people who can do both are part of your team, or if you can do both, then success to you. So, and for each of your projects, I wanted to ask both of you, it's been a journey of learning and growing together with your teams. And what is a big learning lesson or takeaway or troubleshooting that that you'd like to share with us? It could be like a funny story or something like a big realization of growing through the process.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. Matthew, Bill?
Oh, yeah, so
Wait,
do you guys have any early growing pains?
Yeah.
We're still growing. we're as soon as we get grown up. No, just look. I think that sometimes you're like, you need. It's hard. It's not always easy to believe in yourself, right? You're on a journey and you're trying to do something cool, and you're on a creative path. And sometimes it's just scary. And you go to bed at night, you're like, am I an idiot? Like the first day we launched, we had 38 people just show up in our Discord. And I was like, oh my God, I suck and I'm stupid and this is a mistake. And I think that, look, the self-doubt is just fear. And I go back to, fear is built into you to run away from a bear when you're attacked, right? That's why fear is there. But in the creative process, like you can't have fear and you have no idea where things are going to end up, right? You can have a terrible audition and you don't get the job, or you can be in a shitty movie. And the reality is that both of those doors can open a gazillion different opportunities. So I don't know. Don't worry about result, no fear, and attack. Because if it's not you, somebody else is going to do the shit and you're going to hate yourself for not doing it. And by the way, it's the best way to spend a life. Like surrounded by creative people doing shit you want to do, the shit that you're inspired by is the best way to spend a life. You can go be an accountant all day long, and I don't know if there's a lot of joy in counting. But when you are creating and you're surrounded by people like you, there's nothing better. It doesn't matter what the success is. You're spending life in joy, and I just think that that's super. And I don't know. I think that people need to talk about that more. And I'm in a wind tunnel now. I don't know if you guys can hear it. But I'm walking around.
It's adding drama. It's like a Chris Nolan movie. But I was going to say, like, to that same point, when we were doing this, even once we finished the episode, we had everything going, and we were doing the same thing. We're trying to build a community, and we're like, oh, we just a bunch of assholes no one cares about. We had a small group to get started, and we've been building literally from like 15 people, 50 people, 100 people, 500 people gradually. And we didn't know on the day when we dropped NFTs if we were going to sell 10, or 20 or whatever it was. I went for a run because I was like, I can't fucking sit here and watch whatever is going to happen. I came back and they're like, oh, we sold out in 25 minutes. And I was like, fucking what?
Wow.
But like up until that minute, we had absolutely no idea whether anyone was going to show up on the day. And then we sold the NFTs before we dropped the episode. So then I was like, oh, fuck, all right, all these people want to see what we're doing. What if they hate it? Like what if they just bought into what we're doing and what we're saying, sight unseen? They watch it and they're like, oh, fuck, they swindled us, or like, this isn't very good at all. So there was this terror in these two events of failure right up to the point of actually doing it. And then we're like, oh, thank God they don't hate it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's just the hurdle that you have to not think about and just go through and do it. And I guess that's probably part of the thing that no one talks about as well, is like, there's this appearance of confidence of doing all of this stuff, which it is. We believe in what we're doing and we go and do it. But right up to the minute when someone actually has to watch something, you're quite vulnerable about it in many ways.
Yeah, I think, and on top of that, just commit to it. Like everyone's saying, is don't let fear hold you back. Do what you want to do, create what you want to create, and don't look back. Don't second guess. Like there's also that general idea of NFTs in general of like, oh, I FOMO'd into a project and now it's gone and now I have this worthless JPEG. And you're like, well, I just can't look back. Like you can't waste time on what ifs and how could I have done it different. I think is the same way for creating your art and your film and whatever you're doing is don't look back. Use your confidence to make the best decision you can make in any given moment and just keep moving forward.
So much sex talk. So much. So good. I love every second of it.
Well, the keep moving forward is important as well, because it's like, whatever you do, you go like, I got an idea, great, write an outline. I've finished my outline, great, write a script. I finished my script, great, find some artwork. Like, just, there's always another step. And there are things you can't do without money and actors and things, but there are things you can do that a lot of people don't do to continue to move things forward. And I think, in my experience, the more momentum you can build and keep things alive, and you only do that if you really truly believe in something. If it's kind of a half-assed idea, then you probably shouldn't make it, for one. because you're not really committed to it. And if you are committed to it, then just keep going with it. I've got friends that have fully realized projects that are completely all but storyboarded A to Z because they couldn't get it made at different points and they just kept working on it. And then when the time comes, preparation meets opportunity, that's when you got your best chance to actually make something happen. And I think that's what this space can represent. But I think you have to move the ball yourself. Like, a lot of people are like, I got this great idea, I want to use NFTs to make it, but they're not necessarily experienced and they don't have it realized enough for it to actually go anywhere. And no one is necessarily wanting to watch you figure it out along the way. They want you to come up with something that's exciting and they want to be a part of it. So it's like, make something exciting that you really believe in, and then it has its best chance of actually actuating into something.
Thank you so very much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and kind of like to what Matt was saying, like, about not letting the fear get the better of you. It's like, I know a lot of people have this fear of failure, but honestly, like, if you're not doing stuff where there's a potential for failure, you're not pushing yourself. Like, if you're doing something where you're going to succeed, you're playing it safe. You're kind of doing what everyone else is doing. It's like, in order to achieve better results, you should be pushing yourself to the point where failure is an option. And it's okay to fail because you learn the most from your failures and you move on. That's why, film school is great. It's like we're in this sort of bubble where we can make crappy movies and learn why they were crappy and like what parts of it was really good and see what other people are doing that's interesting. And again, like, always be pushing yourself harder than you think that you can. Like, you give yourself the benefit of the doubt.
I love that. Thank you so very much. I love all of the words of encouragement. It's a sales job, right? Keep knocking on doors and sharing the passion that you have. The more people who feel your passion, they want to be a part of it and share it with others. And I think just like every shot you don't take is, what's the saying? I'm forgetting now. Every shot you don't take is...
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for that.
Michael Scott quoting Wayne Gretzky.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate all of your time.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for coming up. Love to support you guys.
Thanks. Team, what's your schedule like? I know, Matt, you are in the middle of OC somewhere.
I am. I'm in the middle of OC and I screamed sex talk and people looked at me like I was a predator. So I should probably wrap up before my father-in-law comes and sees me yelling sex talk in the middle of downtown.
Great.
There's a Karen calling a cop on you right now.
Yeah, that's a good look. Do you want to take one more question and then wrap it up?
Totally.
All right, Lawrence, you've been up here for a bit. What you got?
No pressure.
Oh, wow. This is amazing. Again, congratulations to the projects and everything else. Can't wait to see. Wow, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of speechless right now. I'm actually talking to you guys. My question is, what is exactly NFT films? And is it like how Netflix started in a sense? Do you think like the NFT films is going to be like the new big thing as in streaming services? And how can we prepare for it?
Nice. I will say this about us is that we are building something that we know that we are 100% somebody's going to come along after us and do it better. I don't know about better, but there's going to be a lot of people in this space doing the same thing we're doing. So our whole thing is, and our point of view is that we're going to build what we think is the best possible way to do it. We're doxed, right? So both of our names are on it. We are leading with integrity and 100% transparency in terms of what we're doing. But it's definitely the future. I think that as soon as people start to realize that there is a new way to produce content, they will come. And so I definitely think there's a future in it. I don't think it's an NFT. I don't think it's a Netflix sort of a thing, but I do think that there will be a lot of different different approaches to making films with NFTs and all other kinds of content, right? I mean, it's not just films; it's gonna be television, it's gonna be animation, it's gonna be all the things that people consume.
Yeah, it kind of feels like an opportunity to make stuff. The distribution part of it's a bit of a different story. Like you got all the options in the world about what you want to do, with it. You can make a movie, a TV series, a project, and then it could get picked up and be distributed by one of the streamers, whatever the deal is. Like we just don't know what the space is going to turn into. But at this point, with streaming the way that it is, all that it would take, if you had enough projects under your belt to justify it, is you make an app that someone with Amazon TV or Apple TV or Roku or something could open, and then you have access to a library of content that was made in the NFT world that you could watch. It's all just sort of, I think everyone's just figuring out what it is right now. For now, it's a way to create new content without it being hindered by the traditional sources. And it can be something, ideally, content connected a little bit more directly to the audience. But where it goes, what it becomes, there'd be dragons.
So pretty much just making your own rules in a sense. Okay.
Yeah, and we kind of we kind of looked at like what other because there have been some major studio releases that have been launching NFTs, but they didn't really. There was no utility there. It was kind of a way, like you said earlier, like it looks like a cash grab where they're just selling these digital collectibles, hoping to get fans to just buy them, but there's nothing else to it other than having that collectible. So we came at it from an approach of like, well, what's the utility we can offer people? What's gonna benefit them the most by doing this? And like you said, like with a Netflix type service, I'm sure somebody at some point is going to come along and figure out a way to incorporate those. There's already, I don't know if you're familiar with the Floaties project. They have sort of their own, by owning their NFT, you have access to their video library, which is all of the public domain movies from like back in the day and like animations and stuff. So their whole thing is giving access to high quality public domain stuff. Because they're very much against sort of the copywriting. I think their whole thing involves like copyrights and Mickey Mouse and stuff. They're an interesting project. Definitely check them out. But someone's going to come along and figure out a way to make a streaming service all of this. And who knows, they might team up with other projects like Stoner Cats or Midnite Movie Club and say, hey, we want to take these NFT films and animations and TV shows and put them on our NFT platform. I mean, again, it's the Wild West. Like it's limitless of like the possibilities.
Yeah, it's super, super early on. I think we're all kind of, like everyone's saying, is figuring it out. My hope for it is that it kind of breaks the model of it used to be cable and everything was bundled and you're like, I don't care about any of these channels. I just want to watch the show I want to watch. And then everyone cut the cord and they went to streaming. And now streaming, you scroll endlessly for hours to try to figure out what you want to watch. And it's just kind of this repeat process. So my hope is that this NFT space kind of curates what people want to watch, and instead of being forced to watch a bunch of other stuff you don't want to, you can directly choose what you want to watch and selectively do that without being attached to some bigger streaming service. But I think there's just such a long way to go because you're all here early to learn about the NFT process and to onboard people. And like Matt was saying, people coming at him like it's a scam and da-da-da. That is just people are not understanding because it's a bit convoluted right now. But I think over time, it'll be more mainstream. It'll be more acceptable. And like Chris said, there will be platforms that will onboard people easier than having people trying to figure out crypto and wallets and all this really techie stuff. So I think we're just so early. It's hard to say, but I do think it'll be a much more, at least user-friendly space, if not a streaming service.
Okay, that's amazing. All right, I get it. No, it's cool. It's a really very, very cool thing. And I know you guys have to go and everything else. Can I do a follow-up real quick? Just
yeah, real quick. Yeah.
So I'm also an actor myself. I go to Cal State. I'm a student at Cal State LA, and it's so funny because I have a friend of mine who was actually on set on He's All That with Matthew. And I just wanted to point that out.
What a gift! What a gift for him.
Yeah, his name is Dominic Goodman. I just want to shout him out real quick. We have a lot of acting friends. We're coming up, and I also have a short film that I was in 2 years ago. That's going to be premiering at the Chinese Theater this Friday in Hollywood at 7:30. If you guys want to come, I don't know who's going to be there. It starts at 7:30. It's $15 per person. I didn't think I was actually going to make it, or this short film was actually going to make it. But again, just keep shooting for the stars.
Right on.
Congratulations, man.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
By the way, I
congrats.
just want to point out that a umbrella just took off and crushed a woman. So as you were saying that, I jumped to the rescue. So you'll probably see me on TMZ later tonight. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. That's just how heroes
Matthew
do.
Lillard attacks a woman in Orange County with an umbrella.
Listen, yeah, so they'll spin it, but at least you didn't die in a car crash on the way.
No,
So
thank
this
God.
is a better PR for us. So thank you for that.
God. Well, you guys, it's been an absolute joy to spend time with you, hearing about your journey, and I just feel like super like-minded, and I personally feel super buoyed by, I don't know, your approach and the creative journey you guys are on, and it was great. It was really a lot of fun. So thank you for having us. And
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, this is a great way to spend a sex talk morning. But yeah, thanks. Also, thanks to the audience too, for everyone who are like-minded and showing up and want to chat about the same things that we all love. So thanks for being here. And if you have your own projects, keep pushing. We're all in the same boat, and rising tide lifts all boats. So let's do it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having us. Look forward. We got to do this again. There's so much more stuff to talk about.
Oh
There
yeah,
is.
love
Right
it.
on. Look forward to
All
it.
right.